As promised, we got a major update today in one of the many, almost too many to count, investigations into the ex-president. Now, it comes in a case that most people had believed had dried up. The New York Times reports that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office has now begun, quote, presenting evidence to a grand jury about Donald Trump's role in paying hush money to a porn star during his 2016 presidential campaign, laying the groundwork for potential criminal charges against the former president in the coming months. This is a surprising development after so many twists and turns in what is the longest-running criminal investigation into Donald Trump. Since the Manhattan DA began its probe into Trump's potential financial crimes in 2019, they have secured a guilty plea from his chief financial officer, Allen Weisselberg, as well as a conviction against his business itself, the Trump Organization. But it appeared they were not actually going to charge Trump himself criminally. Earlier last year, DA Alvin Bragg suspended the investigation into the ex-president, prompting two senior prosecutors on the case to resign. One of those prosecutors even wrote a letter blasting Bragg's decision, writing, quote, "The team that has been investigating Trump harbors no doubt about whether he committed crimes. He did. I believe that your decision not to prosecute Donald Trump now and on the existing record is misguided and completely contrary to the public interest." Now, at the time, DA Bragg insisted the investigation was not closed, a point he reiterated last month in the wake of the Trump org conviction.
As I said back in April in a statement, the investigation is ongoing. This is one chapter. I caution people against reading ahead. We follow the facts, and this is part of a broader piece of work that we've been doing really since I joined the office in January, and we're going to continue it.
So, sure enough, the next chapter appears to be beginning with one of the witnesses spotted entering the building in Lower Manhattan, where the grand jury is sitting today. Now, the facts of this case are quite well established because someone already went to prison for this crime. That person, of course, is Donald Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen. Remember, in 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty to 8 federal criminal charges, including campaign finance violations. He admitted to making hush money payments shortly before the 2016 election to 2 women who said they had affairs with Donald Trump, one of whom was adult film actress Stormy Daniels. This was in violation of federal election law. And as the U.S. attorney put it in Cohen's sentencing memo, Cohen admitted he acted in coordination with and at the direction of Individual 1. Individual 1, of course, being Donald Trump. Now, at the time, it did seem fairly straightforward that if you were going to prosecute Michael Cohen for this crime, you should also prosecute the person he was acting on behalf of, the person who clearly was the one orchestrating all of it. And get this. According to new reporting, federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York did consider doing that when Donald Trump left office. In fact, in January 2021, the acting U.S. attorney held multiple discussions with a small group of prosecutors to discuss its evidence against Trump. They decided not to seek an indictment for several reasons, including the political ramifications and the fact that Trump's other scandals, such as efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election and the January 6th insurrection, made the campaign finance violation seem somehow trivial and outdated by comparison. That's a totally defensible view. Like, the guy did try to end the constitutional republic as we know it. But it's also exactly the problem. This has been happening for years now. Everyone is always waiting and looking for someone else to deal with Donald Trump. People keep passing the buck, and then it never ends up stopping. Just look at what is going on right now with all the swirling criminal probes. In addition to DA Alvin Bragg's investigation, there's the Fulton County case led by District Attorney Fani Willis, looking into interference in Georgia's 2020 election. There are 2 Department of Justice inquiries into classified documents and the January 6th insurrection, both now led by Special Counsel Jack Smith. And yet still, as of now, the man who certainly appears to have violated the law in many different ways remains unindicted. And the situation is the same politically within the Republican Party, where people just keep hoping that someone else will come along and put an end to Donald Trump's political career. Of course, they had a chance to do it themselves. The best chance Republicans had to do that was in the days and weeks after January 6th. If Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell had whipped for a yes vote and conviction on impeachment, I think they probably could have convicted Trump and barred him from holding future office. But McConnell was a coward and chose not to. And so the magical thinking continues. As McKay Coppins describes in this great piece in The Atlantic, quote, faced with the prospect of another election cycle dominated by Trump, uncertain that he can actually be beaten in the primaries, many Republicans are quietly rooting for something to happen that will make him go away. And they would strongly prefer not to make it happen themselves. As one Republican put it, it's like 2016 all over again, only more fatalistic. The answer here is clear. You cannot wait for someone else to dethrone Donald Trump, to defeat him, or to hold him to account. He is obviously a clear and present danger in American democracy. We all saw the coup he tried to pull off 2 years ago. And so everyone in American public life has an obligation to do everything they can, legally and peacefully, of course, to stop him now. Stop waiting for someone else to do it.